Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 30th Annual General Meeting of the Ralph Vaughan Williams Society. Now, Mark, you're in charge. You've got some housekeeping announcements to make.
Not sure how I follow that fanfare, but I'll try.
Thank you. Okay, the next announcement is that I'm sorry, Martin Brabbins, who was to have been with us, is not well and cannot come. So after the AGM, we're going to have a three-way talk about Albion records, completely unscripted, by myself, Malcolm Riley and James Ross, who are closely involved in what we do. So I'm sorry about that. If you came specially to see Martin Brabbins, you've come a long way for not very much. The good news is you've got us. And the other important news is that streaming, which worked very well when I tested it last night, isn't working today, and so I'm making a video of what's happening in here, and I'll try and get that uploaded over the course of the next week, and I'll share that with the members who can't be here today. So without further ado, let's get on with the AGM, and the first item is welcome by the chairman. Now, my strong inclination is to keep this fairly brief if I can, because we say the same thing every year, I think. Welcome to recent past chairman Simon. Where's he hidden? There we are. Well, you've done a few of these, and I've just done one or two now, and I think people would like to hear a little bit less. I think the important thing to do here is just to outline what we've done over the last year. And other people are welcome to chip in, please, because it is a meeting for all of us, and we haven't got a hall of 500, so we can keep this fairly informal. For me, the important things have been Albion things. We released, in the year, we're really reporting on the year ended March 2025, so we released 2 Christmas albums, a Christmas Fantasia, or Fantasia for those on the other side of the Atlantic, Carols from Herefordshire, Royal Throne of Kings, and a whole CD, or mainly whole CD, Romance and Reverie. They're all for sale at the back at a very modest price of £10, and I'm happy to take money from you afterwards. I know Sue's been doing sterling work already. Who's got any idea what the other main things were last year that affected them? Albion, the big thing in my life, because I run it. What am I missing? We had a change of editor. I think that's probably the next most important thing. William Headley had done, I think, almost half of all the journals when he retired. If he'd done one more, I think it would have been precisely half. I think you retired on 89, having done 44 of them. Is that right?
Too tired, always.
Something like that, too tired. Okay, well, thank you for finding the energy to come over. Since we're talking about recent editors, I have got a small offering here. If only I can find it behind a curtain somewhere. Here we are. I've got a nasty habit of giving retiring trustees a bottle of champagne. Actually, the trustees are all so old that it's really even odds whether I've got to buy a bottle of champagne or a wreath. William Hapley is, having retired as editor, is continuing as a trustee, so he's in line for both, I think, in due course. But since he lives in the south of France, I honestly don't think I can send him home with champagne. So I think this might keep your neighbours guessing for a bit. Try and make them drink it blind. Come and claim a bottle. It's night timber, it's an English fizz, and these things are doing well in blind tasting. So well done. Thank you for everything.
John's just invited me to say a few words, and I can't resist that temptation. So, what time do you want to finish? Well, I have my wife with me, Maria Beatrice, in red there, and she's a great fan of English wine, I think. Is that right? Every time, as soon as we open the bottle and pour it into 2 glasses, both of us will be able to think of the Vaughan Williams Society. And the 22 years, I think, maybe 23 years that I've been a member, and of the 20 and a half years that I edited the journal, which was a hugely pleasant job to do. Very much so, responsible. I was very lucky because, first of all, because I live a long way away, and there was therefore very little interference from anybody, really. And John once did say the editor's journal is final. So it was a really very, very pleasant job to do. I'm very proud for what we achieved in all those years. And I'm very much looking forward to reading the next issue, which is there and which will be waiting for me in the letterbox when I get home on Wednesday. And thank you very much for this, and all the very best to the Society, of which I'm obviously going to stay a member, and see you all again soon, I hope. Thank you.
Well, William is a musician as well as an editor. Probably, I think you'd say you were more a musician than an editor, wouldn't you? At heart. And so it's great. Well, not all the trustees are themselves musicians, so it is great to have musicians on the Board of Trustees. So thank you for staying on. And I suppose I could take these things in order, but I won't. We've got Howard taking over, Howard Rogers, appointed as a trustee on the 26th of April, so not quite in our year, but certainly a trustee now. Do you want to say anything about the journal?
No,
No, he doesn't. But he's done, I think, a good job. You've done 2 now?
1. Just out.
Did you really jointly do the previous one?
No, William. That was all Williams.
Was it really?
I just
Was
observed.
it really? Was the previous journal all you or all him or some and some?
Previous one was me. This one that I'm extremely much looking forward to is Howard's first.
Okay, well that's great. And of course Paul Sarkic has now been doing the journal setting for some time. Hello Paul. And of course we have Tad, who still ticks us off sometimes when we get it wrong in the journal, and he ticks me off when I get it wrong in the CD booklets, and he's still a great asset to the Society, still working on the website, jointly with Andrew. So Andrew Slater is providing technical input to the website, and between the two of them, they're doing a fabulous job. I think we're looking now to look at downloads, and I think Andrew and I are working on it together, and it's a watch this space in possibly fairly short order, if it all works.
Hopefully,
yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so running through the trustees, we've got Martin, Vice Chairman and Secretary, since approximately, I think, 1943, was it? We wouldn't survive without Martin. We've got Mark, of course, at the back, Vice Chairman, former membership officer. We've got Nathan, Treasurer, you'll hear from him shortly, Nathan Steele. We've got David Aston, who's here somewhere. David Aston, David Wave, where are you? Oh, next to me, hello. I try and pretend he's not there, but every time I wake up, no, let's not go there. Graham Munsey, our information officer, can't be with us today. William Headley, we've looked at. William Van can't be with us today, his wife isn't well. He makes an awful lot of Albion records with me. He's a tremendous musician. I'm recording with him and Kitty Wakely again on Monday, and we've done fabulous things. And I should say, I'm just looking at Penelope Thwaites there, with whom I've made the most wonderful recording in the last year. released just a few weeks ago. So, Penny, give everybody a wave in case anyone doesn't know who you are. Penny's a wonderful pianist. Pianist par excellence and a Granger expert, and just got some decent reviews recently through. Yes. I've got one or two that you don't know about. Jonathan Pearson looked after the complete discography, and he can't be with us today. Gay Hadley is retiring, or has retired actually. She's been looking after merchandising for us, retiring really to take care of her husband, and so we wish her and Roger well. I present them with something if they can be here, but she wasn't able to come. She did send me an apology. Ronald Grains hasn't ever been to an AGM. I hope he'll turn up one day. He lives in the middle of St. Louis, in the middle of the USA. Andrew Green, you all know who Andrew Green is because you've seen all the videos. Well, he couldn't be here either today. Malcolm Riley can, and he's there at the front twiddling stuff for us. Paul Sarkic we've seen. Simon Wright isn't here, helps us with proofreading and helps us with general publishing and copyright issues because he still works part-time for Oxford University Press. Andrew Slater I've spoken about, and Howard Rogers we've introduced. So, Tad Casser, or today is Casser, give him his full name, website, and Karen Fletcher, our publicity officer. Now she is retiring. She's been our publicity officer since I think about 2008. So it's been a long time. You should have got a newsletter from her, I think about yesterday. These things are very long. They're terribly hard work. She really has put her back into that job. And she's given me support in all sorts of ways. She's arranged events for us. She's been a tower of strength. We're going to miss Karen. We need a new information officer. The next one might not do precisely what Karen does. I don't know that I'm going to find anybody to volunteer to sit there hour after hour putting together schedules of concerts. We have got another plan which involves people submitting concerts that they're interested in to the website, and we'll try to implement that over the next few months and see how it goes. But I would like a publicity officer who's going to come in with some ideas and do whatever needs to be done to do the job in their own way. And I could also do with someone to help me with social media. Facebook is an important part of what Karen does. I need someone who can run the social media and put stuff out on it. And I'm going to try and do a bit more myself with streaming and so on, playlists. I've just been educated by James here, who we'll be hearing from shortly. So there's always more that can and needs to be done. So although we've got quite a big board of trustees, there's room for more if you've got a special skill. I think that's most of what I wanted to say in my welcome. That's the Chairman's annual report. That's items 1 and 2 of the agenda done with, I think. Unless anybody wants me to say anything else at this stage, I'm going to sit down and shut up and let the membership officer speak to us. All happy? Good.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be back here again in the Cecil Sharp House with you all. And for those of you looking, I was going to say for those of you looking in on the live streaming, good afternoon as well, but it'll be a video now, so it'll be a little bit delayed. Last year I mentioned to you that I was going to do a couple of things about getting hold of old members and going back through the archives. And so we wrote to a lot of old members, people who had resigned or people who had not paid their subscriptions. And we managed to get 9 new members out of that, which is probably better than none. Also, last year, I've developed this QR code here, which is in the form of a sticker. So I've been putting these QR codes, if you scan it, you go straight through to the membership page on the website. So this is going to stop people from having to send forms in on leaflets and brochures and things. You can go straight through to join the society from that QR code. Last year, our current position of members stood at 1,046. I'm pleased to report to the AGM today that it currently stands at 1,063 when I left home. But when I got here, it's actually increased to 1,064. So we are keeping and maintaining a good membership base. And I have heard in the grapevine that some other societies of British composers are struggling a little. And I don't want us to be complacent about this. We are all in this together. And I feel that the RVW Society should be supporting other British members' societies whenever they can, because we're all in this together with regard to English music. And I'm sorry to hear that other societies are starting to struggle a little bit. We're not in competition with other societies as far as I'm concerned. Maintaining the membership, of course, is very, very important. In 2024, we had 41 members join us, and in 2025, that's gone up to 50. And in 2024, we had 61 people leave us, and in 2025, 41. So we are keeping the membership together, which is very, very important. And what is also important for me is that I get a lot of emails from members asking me questions that I don't know the answers to. But I know that I've got a team behind me that I can find out who will be able to give me the answer or correspond directly with the member. And sadly, it's John who's normally my first point of call, but we get through it. We keep the membership involved. If they need to ask a question, there's somebody in the trustees that can answer it. That, I think, is extremely important. You may also remember, and you've already seen, that this year we've started life membership. And I'm pleased to report to the AGM that we now have 8 life members. That's generating nearly £4,000 directly to the society. All right, it's long term, but that helps with the cash flow. And I'm going to start sending out reminders in the next couple of months to members who wanting to know whether they've got friends or loved ones who would like to gift a membership for Christmas. We're all sitting, what am I going to give Uncle John for Christmas? Oh, he likes RVW. So we may be able to get some more members out of doing something like that. And I was also very, very privileged to be involved in the recording of this latest CD, which, quite frankly, is superb. This CD is like going to a little concert. You've got organ music, you've got choral music, you've got orchestral music. And if you sit and listen to the whole 74 minutes of it, it is like sitting actually at a concert, because you never get bored with the same type of music. The genres change as it goes through. I was actually very busy at the recording of this, organising the teas and coffees for the musicians. Well, people often say a membership officer's job is never done. So my plan for next year is to increase the membership again, if I can. It's not easy, but I want to tap into the American market. The Americans are extremely generous when they renew their memberships, and I'm going to start looking into how we can get the name of the society more known across the pond. And that, Mr. Chairman, is my report. Thank you very much.
I would just like to say what a fabulous job David has done. Membership seemed to peak and then plateau, and we saw the beginnings of a decline, and I think it's partly due to David's energetic efforts that we're actually seeing growth, when honestly I hadn't expected it. So it's really great that we're able to grow our membership at a time when other societies are declining. Is that fair comment?
I think it is, yes.
That's great.
And maintaining the membership.
Absolutely. So I hand over to Nathan, our treasurer. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is my first time. Just a heads up, as I'm taking over from John himself, who used to compile the financial report and the financials in general. So, to summarise, memberships have increased, which means that membership income has also increased. Donations have increased also substantially, which have been helpful for the recordings, especially for Mantegna. And so we have increased recording sales, and I think that there's been there was a glut, I suppose, for about 2 years after the anniversary in 2022, where we had a lot more recordings, and then there was a period of no recordings, and now we're back on and looking to increase recordings, which is why the recording sales have increased. And expenses are up as well, which is also in line with the new recordings. Albion, the fund generally, receives and pays out expenses in line with the recordings, so it's more or less flat. And overall, we have around 106,000 in the bank, so it's a very healthy bank balance, which is actually an increase from the prior year. It was 106,000 last year, and we now have 98,000, which is a decrease. I take that back in the bank, but still a very healthy amount. And considering the recording expenses for Mantegna and the fantastic production of the CD, I think that's quite a good year. Does anybody have any questions, or if not now, then later? But if now, happy to answer.
I should add that the independent examiner has given us a clean bill of health.
Okay.
As usual, yes.
Fantastic.
Had to apply hardly any pressure.
In that case, I will hand back over to John, I believe, or whoever is next in line.
Thank you very much. Martin, I think we probably need a vote, don't we, on adoption of the annual report from the company.
Do you want to do that again?
No. Okay. Right, I think we're adopted.
Do you want to just have a show of hands?
Show of hands, please, yes. Show of hands. I'll be in favour. Good. Now, somebody ought to propose the re-election of trustees and Trevor Lane, the independent examiner. Would someone... Are people happy with this muster of trustees? Good.
With the exception.
Simon, I'll have a proposal from Simon and a seconder from Howard. Good.
The exception of Gay.
Am I allowed to second?
I think so. You're a member?
Yeah.
You're not disenfranchised by being a trustee. So yes, good. Okay, show of hands on that. Good. Is there any other business of the AGM? In which case, I think I declare the formal business of the AGM closed. Is that all right,
Yes,
Martin?
fine. Absolutely.
Good. I'm always worried that I've missed something.
Keep that running.
Yes, keep it running. Now, what we're going to do is a bit of a swap round, I think. David?
My name is Captain Grant, and I may make bold to say I'm one of the boldest heroes that goes on the highway, and with my brace of pistols and my glittering broadsword, to stand and deliver is always my word. If you meet with a poor traveller who is hungry and dry, and if he craves for charity, his wants I will supply. Here's ale and wine and brandy till I spent all my store, and when my money is all gone, I'll boldly rob for more. To Edinburgh jail then they marched me along, that I was obliged to remain till my trial came along. For shooting at the king I was then condemned to die, but I never had a hand in that same robbery. From Edinburgh jail then I made my way out, and those that did oppose me I put them to the rout. All with my metal bullets I knocked the sentry down, and made my escape out of Edinburgh town. when I took up my lodging in the centre of a wood. But through my sad misfortune my powder it got wet, and by a wicked woman who did me there betray, they had me surrounded, sleeping as I lay. To Edinburgh jail then they marched me along. There I was obliged to remain till my trial came along. God bless my wife and family, and may they never want. And the Lord have mercy on my soul, cries bold Captain Grant.
You haven't heard that, you're thinking?
Roderick Williams.
I'm sorry?
Was it Roddy?
It's Roddy, of course it's Roddy, with the Saccone String Quartet. Roddy gave a concert in Wigmore Hall some months ago. I think Stephen Connick went to it, I didn't go sadly. And he had made string quartet arrangements of 8 of the folk songs that you remember we recorded and put down on 4 albums in the very early 20s. We actually did the recording for a week during lockdown in 2020. And Roddy has set some of the songs that he sang in that series, and 1 or 2 of the songs that were sung by other people in that series, one that suited his voice. I've got a little, that'll be coming out next year, so we've recorded those, and what I was playing you wasn't that the final audio, which was signed off a couple of weeks ago. I haven't started the booklet yet. We found a title for the album, we're calling it Rise Heart, and that might give you a clue as to what else is on it. You choose a shorter one. Yeah. And just give you a snippet of the 5 mystical songs. What sort of dance class we've got going on above? It's great fun, they're having great fun. Must have been more than we are.
Very good bass response.
That arrangement of 5 mystical songs with a quintet was published in, I think, 1911 or 12, whenever it came out. No one's ever bothered to record it. Parts on hire from OUP, which is where we got them from, and no one's ever recorded that rather lovely quartet, piano and baritone arrangement. And so that's a first. I got an email from someone the other day saying, look John, all you're putting out on Albion now is different arrangements of things, other people's interpretations, obviously not liking some of the stuff we've put on Mantegna at all. Well, I think these things have their place. They were made often by contemporaries of Vaughan Williams with his permission. This is an instance where we still managed to find an arrangement that Vaughan Williams himself had made and no one had bothered with. So we're still staying close to the composer and not deviating too far from that. But I think that's enough about what I think is going to be our next CD, Rise Heart. I can talk again about that if we need to, but I don't want to monopolise the conversation. James, do you want to say something about streaming at this stage, or do you want to talk a little bit about Royal Throne?
I think probably start with something about Royal Throne of Kings,
Yes,
because
I
then
think
there's
so.
some more general comments about streaming, both to those in your room and by definition to those at the other end of that camera, who, by the fact that you're listening here, can do a few things to help Albion Records out, and I'll come to that later. Just on Royal Throne of Kings, I'd first to say a huge thank you to John and to Albion for entrusting me with conducting the recording. You're very conscious that when you come into a conductor recording where several years of scholarship and detective work and editing work's been done by others, you're carrying quite a lot on your shoulders, really, of the hard work of other people. And it proved a deeply rewarding project to do. Vaughan Williams obviously had a very profound response to Shakespeare's plays. This wasn't a man who was slipped a bit of money to churn something out, and this was very much a heartfelt response to plays that he knew well. Obviously, it's not just Shakespeare. Vaughan Williams knew his Aristophanes, he knew other literary works, and I think it says something very profound about Vaughan Williams's roundedness as a human being and as a composer, that he was able to write with such insight about and such real sympathy for these plays by Shakespeare, and as well as so much else. Vaughan Williams, though, was also always a practical man. He never outstays his welcome. I think it's true that all of his works are punchy and to the point, and the theatre music, particularly that written for Stratford Memorial Theatre before the First World War, is all very much serving a function and a purpose, and does so beautifully. And when we came to do the recording, Malcolm and I discussed beforehand about the way we approached the sound of the recording and the style. To what extent should we interpret this just as music in abstract, and to what extent should we reference its theatrical contexts? And of course, if you go too much in one direction or the other, you probably are going to, if you are completely obsessed with the context, you may produce something that musically isn't entirely satisfactory. If you completely ignore it, though, that's, I think, artistically dishonest and historic for this sort of work. So I hope that what we found was a good compromise of how we approach the music, which makes it, I hope, enjoyable to listen to on its own, but at the same time you can actually feel that this is genuinely music for the theatre rather than a sort of high-class concert arrangements, with the exception of the most substantial work on the album, which is the concert fantasy to Richard II. This is completely different music, and I think it's actually a work that I hope will get into concert programmes regularly, and I've myself performed now a couple of times since in concerts. Thanks to Nathaniel Liu, we have this wonderful arrangement of this approximately 17-minute work, which dates from the mid-1940s. It's almost at the same time as Vaughan Williams' Fifth Symphony, and musically it is a work of, I think, great beauty and substance that I hope that will be taken up by orchestras to perform more widely. It's music that very much is of its time. Vaughan Williams was commissioned by the BBC to do this music for a radio play, which then never happened. He got paid, he wrote the music, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, but it then essentially languished in obscurity in the BBC archives.
Some of the BBC said the play was no longer appropriate at that stage in the war. Yes. Quite what they were thinking of, I don't know, but that's what they thought.
So the play died a death, but the music really deserves a very full life, and I would encourage, if you listen to one track on this recording, do pick that up, and I hope you'll share my enthusiasm for it.
How long is the Richard II piece then?
It's the version we have, which is arranged, is about 17 minutes.
All right.
So it's a good...
It's a fat night.
Exactly. It's a good, very satisfying work, rounded unity of a work.
I'll just show a minute of it. There we are. Just so you
yes.
can... place to stop, but there isn't one.
No, it's all seamless.
I do find that trying to do short extracts for the promo videos, Vaughan Williams didn't think of writing short extracts. He wrote in big thoughts. You know, he thought of the sea and the universe and eternity. And you don't get a 2-minute slice out of that. So yes.
Yeah, this has some of this jolly fanfare music, but a lot of this music is really quite dark. We really feel this pretty unpleasant political world of Richard II and John of Gaunt and Henry IV and all the rest of it coming through very beautifully. There's some very troubled music, fabulous writing, which is absolutely, it's obviously he took a lot of care over this, and so I can very much commend it to you. This has been played on the radio, but to my knowledge only by TRT3 in Turkey. So who did a 1-hour broadcast, a feature program about Royal Throne of Kings earlier this year, and actually I was able to do a performance at the British Embassy in Ankara, where we did a lot of the Stratford music with actors actually narrating and doing speeches. I created a script, partly in English and partly in Turkish, where we did where we had scenes and the music being played and interspersed, all happening at the same time, which worked beautifully. So I hope one day that an enterprising theatre company, if there's any theatre directors out there, that will actually want to use Vaughan Williams' music for either Henry IV, Richard II, Richard III, Henry V even, and should say that the Henry V overture is the one piece that may be known to some people. Anyone who's a brass player might know it because it was actually published in its brass band version, but never in its orchestral guise from which it came originally. If you listen to it, you will, and you know Walton's wonderful music to Henry V, you will work out very quickly that Walton was jogged to use the Agincourt hymn thanks to Ralph Vaughan Williams. And again, I think this shows another aspect of Vaughan Williams' personality, of this deep generosity towards colleagues, and that apparently he lent Walton the score, or it's thought that he lent Walton the score to his Henry V music, which wasn't even published.
See why we no longer know where the score is.
So maybe
it's not in this skier.
Are you sure? but we can go and have a look if you want.
I'd love to.
Well, they did search it for me.
Oh, I think we need to go and look in person. Not on the Society's account, I should hasten to tell you. And so that ends up in Walton's music, which it's a lovely tribute to Vaughan Williams' collegiality and willingness to share and support his fellow composers on that. So I think that's
Several other composers had a go at Agincourt before Walton, though.
Yep.
Yeah. Who was at Three Choirs when David Owen Norris gave us that talk about the Henry V Overture a few years ago? Gloucester.
Haven't you recorded it?
Is that right?
You've recorded it.
I've recorded it, but David Owen Norris gave us a talk about it and played the Bitsford on the piano and explained how the old overture and the new overture developed in two different directions.
Yes.
And it was essentially his collation of the parts from Stratford that we adapted, wasn't it, for the recording?
There were clearly bits that needed a bit of timpani here, there and
we
there.
could have added a bit of timpani drums.
There was no double bass part extant, but clearly the cellos were not playing the bass, so...
Yeah.
So who was playing that extract before? Was it Royal Liverpool? Which orchestra?
No,
Kent
that,
Symphonia.
what we just listened to is Royal Throne of Kings.
Yes,
Kent
wasn't which
Symphonia.
orchestra? And conductor?
Kent Symphonia,
Oh, right.
conducted by James. If you haven't got your copy, turn it at the back.
Bob.
James, you mentioned William Walton. I heard a little bit of Arthur Bliss's Things to Come suite in that.
Yes, quite possibly, which actually, of course, predates.
Yes,
That is Richard II we heard, not
Yes,
Henry V.
exactly, yeah.
If you want to just play a moment of Henry V, just to clarify
Yeah.
the...
But that fanfare.
Very, yes.
It sounded like
It
Things
is
to Come.
absolutely, yes.
sounds like the Romancer from the Fifth Symphony. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Same lump of cheese. They all went to the same cheesemonger in Highgate or somewhere.
What do you think Ursula would say about this?
So I think this is a good example of actually where, yes, as Malcolm mentioned, I don't know if everyone heard that there's just one marking grave at the beginning, and obviously the opening Agincourt hymn needs to be done faster, and so I deliberately did that a little quicker than the slower music, then the quieter music at a different tempo, and so on. And when you have these scores, which often have very little performing indications, and you've got to actually think more about the context and create something more out of them. So I think that hopefully people would agree.
Also, the horn players said you'll need oxygen for those long-held notes if you
But
make
of
it too
course, I
slow.
played you the first minute, and that's quite like the 1933, 35, 33 brass version. It's rather later that the diversions happens. And what would Ursula have said? Early on, should have said no. He rewrote it later on for different instruments that he thought were perhaps more appropriate. He didn't actually mind different arrangements of different instruments, but he did revise it. He put his new thoughts into it. Early on, she would have said no. The earlier thoughts should stay where they are in a box. Later on, as his reputation became more secure, she became much more relaxed about earlier interpretations and even relaxed on the utterly forbidden early version of the London. That's the really famous one.
She was happy with that at the end.
She came to that performance in Fairfield Halls, I think, and she enjoyed it very much, and she was very supportive. But Lewis, you must have been there. Yes. And so that was a fabulous occasion. So I think Ursula relaxed about earlier stuff being performed because the reputation was secure. We have to remember that Vaughan Williams's reputation took a knock, as most reputations do, following the death. And I think it's rebuilt itself on symphonies and a handful of lollipops. I still think there are works, we've recorded some of them, which I'd like to see back in the mainstream, and that might take another 50 years. I think so. So yeah, Malcolm, do you want to say a little bit about putting the scores together? Because this was a complex album.
It was. There's a certain amount of duplication between the Stratford suite and then the Henry IV suite, because Nat Lew had already worked on some of the dances. But there's tiny differences. Yes, reconstructing scores. They were written, I would say, in almost a white heat. The ink was pretty wet when he wrote these things. Lots of shorthand, lots of repeated bars. And in fact, he just says, go back to another play and look at these cues and fit that in there. There's quite a lot of disentangling to be done from the scans that you took in the British Library.
And even at the end, of course, once you'd done that, I then started looking at the notes and thought, hang on, you've given this completely the wrong name. If you look exactly where this occurs in the play, these are the words, this is what's happening, and suddenly the music made a new sense or a different sense. And much to the producer's consternation, we had to go through and rename some of the tracks. And the names that you see in the CD booklets and on the tracks do correspond as closely as we could make them to what they were performed for in 19 1913.
Yes, he was working literally in the pit, I think, probably with a
Yeah.
copyist aside him.
Yeah.
And just immediate, there and then, wet composition.
Sort of
No,
Hollywood,
no
Hollywood
pouring
style.
over it. Pardon?
Hollywood style.
Hollywood style, yes, yes, yes. No minor chords, Mr. Previn. Yes. Yes, and I think we've mined that particular coal scene fairly intensively now.
Well,
There
I
are a
think we
couple
have
of tiny little. There's an Agnus Dei from Henry V, which
Yes.
we might stick
Yeah.
on something one day.
Yes.
Soprano and organ.
But Ursula wrote that he went to Stratford Arms with masses and Elizabethan music, and his ambition was to provide music for the context of those plays as Elizabethan plays. He wasn't interested in modernising things.
No, no.
And so
Lots of
a lot
Tabor, isn't there?
and so actually he didn't write so much new music and didn't have time to anyway.
No.
I think point out there's one particularly beautiful, at least in my opinion, particularly beautiful, I don't know what the recording is, but it's a particularly beautiful work where he takes a piece by Dowland.
Oh yes.
And it
Yes.
might be just worth sharing that
That's
with
in the Henry IV suite.
in Henry IV. It might be worth.
That's
Something
very
like that.
carefully scored, isn't it?
Yes.
And the delineation of the
Is that music
counterpoint.
to my weary spirit?
Yes,
No.
it is. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely
yes.
gorgeous. That was 4 minutes, which is actually quite long for a chunk of incidental music, isn't it?
Yes.
It was for.
It took them
scene
ages,
change.
presumably, to get the scene change. Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of the cues had ad-libbed and a repeat ad-lib.
Yes.
And there were various points where you could go back to and little target signs and dollars and all sorts of things.
Yes, it's one of those things that when you're actually in the theatre, you just keep going until the curtain. We've all probably had this in conducting
Yes.
opera, of the curtain doesn't come up, and it's like do that bit, keep repeating that bit until the tenor finally turns up and just starts singing.
Absolutely. Now, talking of tenors, you will have a quick look at something other than Royal Throne. Now, we need to move on, I think, because we've done one a bit more recently, which involved, if I can make it go, a tenor.
Tenor.
Dear love, behold, for good or ill, how near your lover stands. The night is ours, all sounds are still. My heart is yours to hold at will in your beloved hands, in your beloved hands.
Isn't that gorgeous? Pianist over there, that's a Penelope. That's the most gorgeous heart of that opera, isn't it?
Yeah.
You picked that one song from it.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
In 2008, Stephen Varco and James Gilchrist and I gave 2 recitals at St John Smith Square, Vaughan, Williams and Friends, which was absolutely wonderful doing those programs. And Stephen had spoken extracts from letters and just fun bits and pieces, not very much. And so that's when I first encountered that song, because Stephen had programmed it, along with all sorts of other lovely things.
Yeah.
So when it came to putting together the program for this recording, which was my responsibility, I was able to choose it, include it.
Absolutely. I found you the artists. We used Catherine Rudge, who I wanted to record for a long time, and Alessandro, who we worked with previously. And we had a fabulous time together, didn't we? You liked them instantly.
Sorry?
As soon as I suggested them, you were on board with us, and then the programme flowed really from there, didn't it?
The program definitely evolved several years previously.
Yeah.
But in fact, I think my first thought was to compare the influence of folk music in the music of Vaughan Williams and in that of Percy Grainger, because there's interesting contrasts there, quite stark.
A very marked contrast, I
Yeah,
think, yes.
very much. And yet the 2 of them were friends, knew each other.
They were.
For a long time,
Yeah.
and used to gather at these meetings in the early
Singeries.
1900s. They didn't use that word then.
Oh, no.
I know that was later.
Oh, an earlier
So in
incarnation.
1900s,
Yes.
all these people, Paul Gardner and Cyril Scott and Roger Quilter and other people like that, lots in Chelsea. They used to gather and try out new works.
Yeah.
That's, but I think Vaughan Williams, he's just as someone said, such a generous person. I've admired that enormously in him.
What else is there on that album that you think is really special?
Well, I think it's
Sure.
quite special.
There are only 25 tracks.
You're just thinking from the Vaughan Williams
No,
tracks.
no, we could reach. I mean, my favourite album is it's the last one, which I think is too long to play today. I'm going to play a little bit of what.
can't follow that, can you?
Penny, you were about to suggest something else.
I was thinking of the Reaver's Neck verse. It would be a sharp contrast to anything at all we've heard today.
Oh, it would.
Can I just quickly say that the man who's singing it is an absolute scoundrel. The words are, now that's gone from me. You know who I mean, that rather ghoulish poet. Can we remember his name?
No, I can't.
Anyway, the man is standing at a scaffold, and the neck verse, I think neck verses were traditionally something from the Bible. If you could give a good rendition of that, you might get off your execution.
Oh, gosh.
Swinburne is the name I'm thinking. He wrote this piece.
Very gloomy.
And it's very concentrated, so I wouldn't expect on first hearing for people to get all the little nuances, because it's clear at one point this man is sort of talking about various ways people die, but he said, "I for a false love's fee." So obviously his girlfriend has shocked him, and he's not too pleased about it. But he's the sort of swagger and bravado is lovely.
Okay, let's have a bit of a Reaver's Neck verse, and we can all of it.
We
It's
have
2
the whole
minutes.
thing, it's only
2 minutes.
Some die singing and some die swinging, and will more they be. Some die playing and some die praying, and what say we, my dear, and what say we. Some die sailing and some die wailing, and some die fair and free. Some die flighting and some die fighting, but I for a false love's fee, my dear, but I for a false love's fee. Some die laughing and some die coughing, and some die high on tree. Some die spinning and some die singing, but faggot and fire for ye, my dear, faggot and fire for ye. Some die weeping and some die sleeping, and some die on the sea. Some die ganging and some die hanging, and the twine of a toe for me, my dear, the twine of a toe for me.
Fine bit of stuff.
Can
Malcolm,
you
what does
please
this?
tell us who the tenor is? I've asked about 3 times.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
tenor.
darling?
Who the tenor is?
Alessandro Fischer.
Thank you.
It's his second album with us. We recorded Portrait of the Artist, is it? Portrait of a Mind, thank you. I just call it Portrait all the time. Portrait of a Mind, a song cycle by Ian Venables, which we commissioned from him a couple of years ago. And he's actually doing it again at the Temple Church on the 4th of November, I think, with a new cycle, or a newish cycle by Venables, getting its London premiere. It's had a premiere elsewhere. And all sorts of other things, a complete Albion cast list. And you've even got me flogging CDs at the end afterwards, so don't miss it. Malcolm, do you want to say a few quick words about our unknown forthcoming album, Canterbury Clarion, that no one knows about?
No, it's nearly all recorded. I was fortunate to be able to get into Canterbury Cathedral through the good offices of their Director of Music, David Newsom, And I've acquired over the years a variety of pieces by British composers for organ and brass, including one by my old teacher Charles Spinks, who some of you might remember when he was BBC accompanist and harpsichordist, and he would, at the end of his broadcast recitals, the mics would go off and he'd say, right, would you like me to do an improvisation? A little piece of paper would be handed to him. Amazing piece he wrote in the mid-50s for one of the BBC Light Music Festivals at the Festival Hall. It's a toccata, concert toccata, in F-sharp major, favourite key for brass players. Full symphonic brass, percussion, and the mighty new organ in Canterbury Cathedral.
With a squeaky organ bench.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
I know.
The mics didn't pick it up.
No.
Irritating when you're up there. Yeah.
I know. Scary up there, actually, because the whole thing is sort of... It's very lightweight. And we brought together a brass group who work almost exclusively in the cathedral called Jubilati Brass. We had some music by M. Riley. And we had music by the former Elgar professor at Birmingham and Bristol University, Stephen Banfield, who is now retired after many years. He's now living in Canterbury. His graduation march he wrote for the graduands at Birmingham, called Birmingham Pride, big concert march. We also had some music by other sort of lesser composers such as Percy Whitlock, and we found, I was trying to think of the, Bliss. You heard of Bliss? His ceremonial prelude, written for the 900th anniversary of Westminster Abbey. That's never been re-recorded since the first performance when Simon Preston did it on an EMI LP. And then we discovered that, of course, Orlando Gibbons is buried in Canterbury Cathedral. He was on his travels along the Pilgrim's Way, stopped at Canterbury, had a stroke, and they buried him there after he died. And that was just as well. And we are going to include some pieces. The Song 13 prelude that Vaughan Williams wrote for piano, I think, originally, wasn't it? Which we've recently put on Mantegna.
Yes, he wrote it for...
There's an organ version by E. Stanley Roper, which we're going to include.
Is that here somewhere? Or have we not done
no, we haven't done that yet.
Okay.
And we found some little bits and pieces by Vaughan Williams, some of his flourishes, because he did not like the word fanfare.
We had one earlier. He said flourish was good English and fanfare was bad French.
Or Portuguese. Fanfaria.
Okay.
A noisy arrogance. So, yes, it will be...
Choose a bit for quick blast, Mark.
Oh, could we have... Can I be very cheeky and have a bit of my own piece?
Why not?
You sure?
Yeah.
No, let's try a bit of the Sphinx. Concert Toccata, M2. Then he works the theme in canon. He knew Vaughan Williams quite well. He used to tell me about his meetings with Vaughan Williams. He also took part in the first of the Hoffnung festivals. And he said that Gerard would ring him up in the middle of the night and sing to him down the telephone. A lovely little connection is that for the Mantegna disc with the London Mozart players, the timpanist was Hoffnung's son, Benedict. He just celebrated his 70th birthday. And
he conducts, I think, as well.
Yes.
I went to a concert in the Cotswolds.
That's right.
They did the Brahms style Lincolnshire.
Yes.
And Beethoven's Eroica, I think.
Yeah. his percussion colleague said, "Happy birthday, Ben, here's a box of Cuban cigars." And he went, right. Those are for later.
Why didn't he put that in G flat major?
Well, to make it difficult. I suppose.
Make the tune bloody awful.
Yes. And the brass parts were all in C, trumpets in C as well, which it made them sweat a little bit. It was very hot, wasn't it? Very hot in Canterbury at that summer.
It was quite
Those
a
holidays.
difficult recording situation because I think the brass were like to sit in a big circle,
Yes.
and they were stuck in the middle of the choir stalls, so
Yes.
a much narrower space than
Yes.
they wanted.
Yes.
And,
We got the good separation in the end.
with
I
the
think.
organist
Yeah.
aloft on
Yes.
the
Yes.
on the north side, but quite a long way up there.
Yes.
So
And he was following
synchronising was
on
quite tricky.
on a screen.
Yeah.
We got there in the end.
Yeah,
we got there.
Yeah.
So when's this out?
Well, I can get the rest of it recorded.
Yes, it was going to be out this year,
Yes.
but we're waiting for just a couple of tracks,
Couple of
aren't
tracks,
we?
yes,
Organ
yes,
tracks.
yes,
And
so-
we'll get it out next year.
Yes.
This is a fully funded CD, and so neither the Society's money nor Albion's money is at risk on this one. It's fully funded. So it's not a Vaughan Williams CD, apart from those flourishes such as the one with which I opened the AGM, which was from that
And the song 13.
source, and the song 13, that's right. James, do you want to say a little bit about the streaming and things, and perhaps I'll then sort of wind up with a bit of Mantegna and anything from the audience.
Certainly. Thank you. That you can see behind you a beautiful array of compact discs, and the most important one to say is, of course, please do buy Albion CDs, and John greatly appreciates, and John's garage greatly appreciates being slightly reduced in the number of CDs. I've seen this, it's quite a sight, and also John's cellar of the stocks of CDs, and of course encourage people to buy compact discs. However, reality of how people listen to music today is that 85% plus of listening is done via streaming and done digitally. Therefore, as a record label, any label needs to be savvy and up to date about how we navigate the streaming world. As artists, we all have our frustrations about the rather small amounts of money that streaming platforms pay per stream. However, it's the world we live in. We can't change that, and we've got to work with it. And in fairness to the streaming services, most of the money that they receive, they pay out one way or another. What does this mean in practice to everyone here and to those listening digitally? There are a couple of very specific things you can do to help Albion just to both get more streams and also to increase its digital footprint. And why this matters is because you think that streaming is all about bots, about algorithms and whatnot, and that's an important part of it, but actually behind Apple and Spotify and Deezer and other platforms are real human beings who are playlist editors and responsible for making decisions about which recordings are promoted on their platforms and which aren't. And the reality is, and I talk to these people regularly, is that, and they are essentially the equivalent today of Mr. HMV from 25 years ago. They are the shopkeepers of the music industry with whom we need to talk and also have a constructive relationship. And there's a few basics. One is that albums that have, and artists who have more people liking them, who either follow, like, or whatever the relevant term is on that platform. On Spotify it's follow, on YouTube it's like. Just by pressing that click like on both the artists and ensembles and on individual tracks that are streamed, the more people do that, the higher up the menu that you go, and the more that the music of Vaughan Williams and other composers promoted by Albion will become visible. And so if you do listen to something, if you enjoy it, just give it a little click. Numbers matter in this regard. The other aspect is that, of course, that the more streams that Albion gets, the more revenue goes to Albion. And whilst you might think, oh, what does 1 or 2 streams make? The answer is 1 or 2 doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But there is one basic, for example, on Spotify now, you earn 0 per track until you've reached 1,000 streams per track. And when you see on your Spotify, if you see on your Spotify account, if there's nothing next to the track, it normally means that there aren't 1,000 streams yet. And that means that Albion's earned 0. Once you hit the magic 1,000 within 1 year of release, then Spotify starts paying out to you. So playing things a couple of times is deeply helpful to Albion. I should just caution that please don't hire some North Korean kind of bot factory to do multiple streams thousands of times. I think Spotify isn't stupid. It notices these things, and record labels and artists who do that sort of what they call artificial streaming get in quite a lot of trouble with them, can get fined or even get chucked off the platform. So don't push one's luck on this, but we do want people listening and engaging and passing the word around. You can spread the word digitally. We create Facebook events for the new album releases coming out, and this is a desperately easy way. If you are on Facebook, for example, no need to be, but if you are, you can, if you follow that and share it with your contacts on Facebook, that suddenly is a form of what they would call viral marketing, which has a budget of 0 for the record label. You're simply helping it by spreading the word around the world about this. And there's a more general point that Vaughan Williams does very well in the UK and the English-speaking world, but there's a lot of work to do to get Vaughan Williams' music out into the wider world, which isn't English-speaking. My personal experience of having performed a lot of Vaughan Williams' music in other countries is that whenever you take it there, orchestras love it, choirs love it, it gets taken up, but it needs a push because he's not familiar and he needs to be encouraged to be performed, and it's really worth doing. And having the digital platforms with Albion recordings and other ones on of Vaughan is an enormous help in actually promoting Vaughan Williams worldwide. So anything you can do to help, please do so. If you've got individual questions or slightly technical ones about how can I help do this, please feel free to come and grab me over a cup of coffee afterwards, and I'm happy to give you a few tips about it.
Mr. Chairman, could I suggest perhaps that James might write something for the journal to spread that valuable information to the whole nation?
With pleasure.
If you're not perfect,
Yeah,
that would be lovely. Come down in February. We're just publishing. We have just published one. So,
I'm shipping in far too much here, and I'm not going to listen to that when it goes out because I should be so embarrassed. But I'm just curious, take the Solent, which must be one of the biggest things that Albion has probably done.
I wouldn't say it's the biggest, but it's certainly one of the most important.
How many Spotifys has that had?
I can't tell you, quite a lot.
But it's actually broken through the ceiling, has it?
Yes, it has.
Right.
I think we do get royalties from the Solent. In fact, the BBC asked for metadata for it just a couple of days ago, so they're looking at. We get performing rights as well.
Because there are a few versions now. I mean, you've got the one on Albion. I think there's another one.
We were the first.
I don't know, something poems or something on Chandos.
Yeah, someone else
I think
has done
there's
it.
actually an Naxos version.
And is there a third? Yeah. Well, certainly we were the first.
Yeah.
2000, back in about 2007, 2008, and of course it was nominated for a Grammy.
John, I should just actually say that on terms of number of streams, for Royal Throne of Kings, we pitched it to Apple, and Apple's playlist editors took up the album, and one of the tracks, Dirge for Fidel, is approaching 1 million streams now in less than a year. And that volume of streams turns into 4-figure sums, which go back into Albion's coffers to help fund future recordings.
That track is half our streaming income for the last year.
I've got one last question, and I'm going to put some sellotape across my mouth and say that
We've got gaffer tape here.
before you can get across here then. How do certain things end up with certain record companies? I came today and I was very interested in the future.
The Future.
And the Stearman's whatever it is, because the Future was on the radio, it was on Radio 3, and I discovered that it actually doesn't. Now, how would Albion not do that and Dutton would, because they're two very rare ballroom.
Well, the answer is that David Lloyd-Jones is a good chum of Mike Dutton, and they managed to come up with funding.
Yeah.
That was I went to the inaugural concert for the Future.
Yeah.
He scored it very heavily. I mean, I photographed the manuscript and suggested that he do it actually, but although he blamed Hugh Cobb when he made a speech about it, but let's not go there.
I didn't realise I was touching.
But it's a very thinly scored manuscript, and so he scored it very heavily. It would have been an immensely expensive thing. We'd have had to raise thousands of pounds to do it. So we don't have to own everything. If someone else wants to do the Future or the Steersman, then that's wonderful. I'll buy a copy. Occasionally we've even given them a bit of money to do so. We're not shy about giving money to other record companies. I sponsored something for Som myself just a few months ago. Sadly, I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been the Coleridge Taylor one that she just brought out. But
what's the Stearman like? Because I haven't heard that on the radio. I thought they might play it now. Been listening for it, but I have heard the Future. It's the Lost Movement of the Sea Symphony.
I bought it, but yes, I bought it, but it didn't make a big impact on me.
And how long is it? I mean, the Sea Symphony is already about 63 minutes.
How long is it? 11 minutes.
So that would make the Sea
Lewis,
Symphony
what do you think about it?
Malarian, wouldn't it?
Well, the Steersman was my pet project.
Was it?
Doing it for years. If you look in my
now you're in trouble, John.
you see, we actually printed, with Ursula's permission,
Okay.
the original manuscript in short score.
Okay, and are you happy with the result? No, it's
Yes,
been recorded.
It was Martin Yates that did it, not DLJ.
I'm sorry, I said David Lloyd-Jones. I'm thinking, no, it's not. It's Martin Yates.
Yes, no, it was.
I saw him at an English music festival, and that's when we talked.
It would have been the third movement for the finale.
Okay. Is that with the Scottish Orchestra?
But yes.
Yeah.
But no, we was recorded with the BBC Symphony in St Jude's on the Hill.
Yes. Yeah.
But the Martin did the two, and the whole point about all the ones on Dutton is that once I'd got Martin into the British Library with the beat, he'd been through lots, as you know, he's already recorded several in his transcriptions or versions.
He's done lots of good stuff.
And he's got more coming. At the moment we have a key issue because a lot of this is going to die. It's going to die because the old formula was if you record it, if you can sell 1,000 on CD, you've pretty well broken your cost. If you can sell 2,000, you're fine. On Dutton, the one that sold the most copies, which was the Elgar Piano Concerto, which is we sold 10,000 and was on television. As far as so the numbers are going down,
yes,
and the general movement is to streaming, which doesn't produce the revenue for the sort of quantities that we're talking about.
Tell me about it.
And at the same time as the BBC orchestras are putting their prices up, so that they'll be able to afford to record it anyway, because the model we had that there was with support from the Vaughan Rivers Trust and from other funding groups. And so, I mean, I've done 200 CDs with them, and they're all funded one way or another from trusts and sources.
Well, we're running out of money as well.
I'm now 83, so I think I've seen the best of it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm 73 and I've also seen the bit. Well, I'm not actually. I'm 72, hanging on to it for a little bit longer. But yes, I've seen the best of it. I think the important things we've done, the Solent we've done, that's the important thing. I think Pan's Anniversary was an enormous thing that we did. I think Beyond My Dream, the Greek plays, that was fabulous. I'm very proud of you first. I'm very proud of having recorded the communion service in G minor in English for the first time. Some people don't see the point. I most certainly do. This was a service that was written and recreated for use, for liturgical use in the English church, and it was used especially in cathedrals, Liverpool, Southwark, York. Lots of cathedrals made plentiful use of the communion service in G minor. Holy Trinity Brompton used it for midnight mass on Christmas Eve several years running. If you know anything about HTB, I don't think they'd be using that now. I think they'd have a different sort of music, and good luck with it. Looking at future plans, we have got a few future plans. I've got a few albums coming along. I've talked a little bit about Rise Heart, which also includes a piano version of Willow Wood. We cannot quite recreate the piano and voice original Willow Wood, because Vaughan Williams pasted over it so heavily that we need an X-ray machine, and that's true of a few of his scores. So what we actually have recorded is the piano and voice version of the final revised score, and we know that he broadened it a bit. It's a bit longer. He slowed it down at the end. We can see that because you can lift up some of the pace downs and see what was there before, which is quite interesting. But nonetheless, we've got you a piano Willow Wood, and there's a cut in it, and we've actually got two versions. Roddy Williams, who's made the recording, prefers it with the cut out. So I thought, well, I'd like to hear what it sounds like with the cut in. So I've got another version which I might just slip on a CD at some later date to fill a quarter of an hour. That would be rather nice. I've got a lovely record coming up with Kitty Wakely, singing some Vaughan Williams, but also some Grace Williams and all sorts of things. I've got a complete Piano Works recording coming up, William Van doing that. But I'm looking at all sorts of odd things. I'm still looking at the score for the Wasps. You still can't hear the Wasps as it was heard in 1909. That would be a massive project, and we'd need some money for it. But you know, I'm thinking about it over the next couple of years.
Pageants.
There are pageants to come. The other day I bought the old published score of The Poisoned Kiss, which predates the final revision in 1956. And I just made a little list of the music in it that doesn't appear on the CD. You can't buy the 1956 score, that's only available on hire. So if you want to know what's in the final revision, you've got to buy the only CD recording, which doesn't have a full text. It's quite a bulky CD booklet as it is, it's in several languages. But there are nonetheless a few passages and scenes in the old Poison Kiss which might have some musical value. So I shall be looking at those. And we've still got a few other projects to come. So Albion is not quite dead, but what Lewis said is right. It's very difficult to fund these things now, and what James said is right. We need to do our level best to maximise the revenue from streaming.
Excuse me, John, what's the problem with the Wasps?
The Wasps? Well, you can only hear the suite.
So the Halle did a massive...
The Halle did a recording with a completely new play. Lot of spoken word over the music. It's great to hear it once. I
haven't listened to it more than twice, I don't think I heard it.
But the BBC broadcast of the full play, do you remember with Welsh voices given to the yokels, was fantastically good, and I've certainly got a tape of it.
Oh, have you?
And I mean, there must be tapes, and there's certainly an official tape in the British Library. So whether the BBC could be persuaded to charge a reasonable rate, or whether you can get it in a position where it's not in copyright and therefore you could do it anyway. It must be on transcription discs.
I might not keep this on the video when we broadcast it, Lewis, but I'll talk to you about your tape, I think. Getting the tape out of the BBC.
You must get it out of the BBC. There's enough collectors with copies. Stephen Lloyd's got it.
When was that?
There's no.
I don't know it.
What year, Lewis, was the broadcast?
76, 75,
okay.
Something like that.
I don't know whether this is of interest, John, but when I was teaching at Morley, I used to have an old handwritten set of the Wasps. I think it was the suite, dating from God knows when, but it had on it donated by Dr. Vaughan Williams to Morley College, and there's probably a year I'd have to look up, and it's in Holst's handwriting.
Oh.
So,
And where is that?
Sorry?
Morley.
That's in Morley.
Morley College.
Oh, I'm going to have a look. But getting hold of the score isn't difficult. I've got a score.
Yeah.
I've got a published score. But there we are. So those are projects we might be thinking about and looking at. Have you got anything we should be looking at? Any questions, ideas? I've worn you all out by the sound of it.
Should we send them home with that?
Shall I sign you off with a piece of music? Something from... No, something with a choir, I think, surely.
Oh.
Who can hum me the tune of the hymn tune White Gates? Anybody volunteer to hum it? Anyone think they don't know it? There we are. Fascinating that Vaughan Williams chose the name White Gates for that hymn tune. It was written to go with those words, fierce raged the tempest, and it's about the disciples being caught in a storm and Jesus calming the waves. And so every verse ends with peace be still. He had just had to move from London to care for Adeline. I think this was written about 1930 or so, and he moved, I think, into Whitegate in 1929. This was his place of calm. Isn't that nice?
Though there must have been fierce moments.
Yeah, I think so.
Tension.
I think so.
Gnashings.
I think, if anybody wants to say anything more, I'm going to say thank you all for coming. See you next year. Not all the trustees, obviously, because they're so old, but I see the rest of you next year. Thank you very much.
I would like to just say thank you to you for all you do. You are staggering in people.
Next year the live stream will work.